Mm.
Yeah, hi. Good morning. So do we begin or are we waiting for that?
Oh, we're waiting for Bunny now. Since she's the one
What?
we're reporting
Yeah,
to.
I'm okay.
Okay. I said we're waiting for Bunny since he's the one we're reporting to. Let me reach out to him.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Hi, Bunny. Good morning.
Good morning. Is everyone here?
Except for Grace.
All right. We are going to actually be starting with discussing the changes that are coming. Yeah. Can you reach Grace, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to call her. She said she's here. Okay, she's here.
Is everyone here?
Yes.
All right. So I'll share my screen. To go through the All right. Do you see my screen? I guess my screen.
Yes, can see it now.
Okay, so yeah, we are going to be talking about how we actually work now. Um, what's happening, updates, why we are making changes and all of that. All right. So we can also know what to expect moving forward. All right. So first of all, there are some things that have already been decided, and some other. It's basically the discussion will be two things that have already been decided, and also things that are yet to be decided. Open, we get to talk about it together, and decide how we actually want to move forward. You understand? So what has been decided is that we actually stop selling capped packages. All right, so the whole 10 pieces of content per month, 20, blah blah, that is actually coming to an end. All right. We're also moving into content planning now weekly as opposed to every month. Okay. So we are also shifting from being responsible for output, oh, we post 3 pieces of content today, sorry, this week, or five, or 10, or whatever thing. All right. So really focus focusing on growth. We are shifting the responsibility, like, from output to just output, of course, like to growth. You understand? Then the things that yet to be that are open for discussion is how we actually run the whole thing. So the direction is already set, but how we run the whole thing is, the nuance of, stuff like cadence, workload, what is realistic, who owns what is missing, stuff like that is what we're going to be talking about. Deciding on, you understand? So, and there are 3 rules that are going to be following, right? All right, so one is when it's your turn to talk, or you have to bring anything up or whatever, right? So make sure like you name the problem, not just the worry, like, okay, I'm actually worried about this, I'm concerned about this, like, name the actual problem. If it will not work, all right, say what you will do instead. Don't just say, well, this is not going to work. Like, you need to bring solutions, understand? And nothing gets decided without an owner. So that means, like, whatever it is we decide on right now, today, it needs to be assigned to somebody, like somebody owns it. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Okay. So, yeah. Now, there are 2 things that, like, that is making us make this switch, okay? Number one is that clients are not where they should be. So it's like we're actually producing content, okay, but it's not really moving the numbers that, these people actually care about, right? The kind of results they're supposed to be getting, or, what's been promised. So we're not really getting the results. So we are sort of like in that frame of doing content, all right? And also, the second thing is that clients are actually leaving before the work compounds. And you can't really blame these guys as well, because a lot of times, all right, yeah, there is some maybe like listening to differences, here and there, or problems here and there, I mean, that's making these clients leave. But majorly, it's that, don't let me say majorly, like from my point of view, based on what I own, right? A lot of them are actually leaving because, again, the results are not there. And usually the results are not there because, like, these things take, I don't want to say, like, it takes time. I'll say, like, it takes volume, all right? Because we can, which is like a vocabulary, like, I've actually decided to, like, get rid of, that something takes time. It's more of like, it takes the right amount of, if anything is not working, right, what is missing is that the right amount of work or input or elements needed for it to work is not there. All right, say for example, like, clients leaving before the work compounds would be something like, okay, let's say in a year, all right, you are posting every day for a year, all right, one piece of content a day, 365 days, all right? By the end of, like, the year, you'll have actually made 365 pieces of content, correct? Right? Imagine you do all of that within 2 months. You post, like, 365 pieces of content in 2 months. That would mean that instead of you to actually wait until, like, the end of the year, right, you would actually know what's going on within 2 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, if we are going to be spending, like, 1 year to run something, like, we can actually do it in 2 months. That would mean that the result you can actually get, all right? You can make it happen in 2 months. So now, of course, like, this doesn't eliminate the whole factor of, like, something takes a long time or whatever, but, like, really volume sort of, like, helps shorten time frame for, like, things to happen. This is also the reason why, like, you see a lot of scientists when they're coming up with, let's say, vaccine, for example, and hearing something like, we already run, like, a million tests within this short period of time to actually make this happen, right? Because, again, the number, the volume matters. You understand? So, yeah. Now, I'd actually, like to throw a question at you guys as well. All right. I'm curious, like, shall we reach anybody past 3 or 4 months? Like, I'm curious from your end, like, which client did we lose that we should have kept? In your opinion, what also went wrong as well from your end? I'm curious. Who wants to go? What was that sound? Yeah, Grace.
I would say Christy.
I feel like if we have brought the same process we are doing for Alex now for her, then I feel like she should still be here.
Okay. What same process? Exactly.
Like process that I feel like rewriting the script itself was like, I don't know, there was a lot of like back and forth, and I felt like maybe she didn't like that. You know, there was just a lot of back and forth with the old script structure. So I really would have, come up with like the weekly topics or so, and then just structures to help her like do her thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have made more sense, and then the results would have been like better.
Okay. Great point, actually. What else? Like, and is there anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Gracie said, especially because Christine kept referring to the fact that the one she was doing by herself was working and why was ours not picking up. So yeah. Then for English, I'm not sure if we would have kept her because she had a problem on her own. So she did not really deliver all the things that we needed from her. She was not used to giving feedback when she was supposed to give feedback until when things have gone live, or until when it feels like she has the time at the moment, and then we're now rushing through everything at the same time. So I believe even if we had kept her and tried this weekly thing, we would have still had issues because she kept saying things like she is trying as much as possible to get work done with the little time that she had.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Who else? Is there anybody else? All right. So now that's it. There are like 4 main root causes, right? Again, fundamentally, all right, that is actually causing these problems I listed right here. Understand? This problem, clients not getting results and things not compounding, all right, before they leave. One is that this is actually like, from our end, we saw ourselves as content creators, and that's a problem. So the moment you sort of like put we are on 10 bits of content per month or 20, it doesn't matter like what your positioning is. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're saying, okay, you're a brand strategist or whatever. The moment you actually like, put a number to, okay, this is what we are delivering to you per month, there is no how you actually get judged on how much you deliver. Not necessarily what it does for the client. You understand? So setting ourselves as content creators, one. Number two is like, the feedback loop being too long, which is what I was talking about as well. That if we are posting stuff for like, let's say a year, and then we're able to like, put all of that out like, within 2 months, that would mean that you are able to learn what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be fixed like, much more faster as opposed to, prolonging it. So our feedback loop, like, going from like the whole, okay, we push out like 20 topics, we run that for like a full month, and we do a report after the month, and I'm like, okay, this is it. Nah, it doesn't work, right? Because social media, like, is constantly changing. Something that you're actually working on right now, like, in the next 2 days, you can be like, okay, things just change. You understand? So that feedback loop, like, being too long is a problem, right? And number three is that, like, nothing has actually been forcing us to do what works. You understand? Like, this is like a system, how should I say, what's the best scenario I can actually give, all right? So it's like, when we put like, better structure in place and, we are assigning, like everybody knows what they own, okay? And then there is like, the whole reports thing, happening as well. That sort of like, forces us like, to really know, to really do what works, you understand? And lastly, putting ourselves in the box of 10 pieces of content per month or 20 only means that we are focusing on content. But I don't really believe what gets results is content alone. Like, it's in fact when it comes to okay, yeah, maybe like growing your audience, getting views or whatever. Yeah, content does that. When it comes to conversion, which is a large thing of what these clients actually need, when it comes to like really people sending you a message and say, okay, come on, help me, buy your service or whatever, there are other parts that makes, other parts that, just contribute to that happening. You understand? So the moment you start to like, put packages, 10 pieces of content per month you get is that would mean that like, even other things that are supposed to be done to get content, I'm sorry, to get things moving for the brand, right? That would mean that we're not really doing it. Does that make sense? So stuff like story, stuff like what does your offer look like? What's your funnel? How are you having conversations with people, right? In as much as it's already like, something that I tell the clients, okay, you can actually like, pop in here and there. But the facts that like, the offer that they are buying into doesn't really say that um, exclusively, right? Um, that becomes a problem. You understand? So yeah, and as usual, like this is my reader, right? It might be incomplete. So if you have like any other thing that you feel, and aside like from these four things as well, that really like has been working against us, right? Please let me know if there's anything. Anything, guys? Any fifth reason from your end? Anyone? And is this thing covering the stuff, right?
Yeah, you can either remove it entirely or just reduce the size.
Okay. Oh, all right. So anything else? If there's nothing else, we can move on. All right. So now that said, what we need to do, all right, to fix these problems is we need to stop being a content team, all right, to really becoming, brand growth partners, all right. So right now we're actually going from selling packages, like selling a partnership. Like, what does that mean? Say for example, when we do the strategy for the clients, this is what we're doing. This is like messaging, the direction or whatever, right? We are going to be planning based on what really does this client need, okay, and also like what's your availability, of course. So say that might involve that we like literally are posting like even up to like 10 times for this client in a week, okay. So say for example, we don't follow like somebody that's actually just starting out. They need to be using trial reels, or they need to be posting like carousel. They need to be posting talking heads, micro reviews or whatever. So and then instead of say okay, because your content is that like there's only 10 pieces of content in this package or whatever, so we can't really touch on all of this. No, but like we need to like plan. Okay, this is actually where your content pillars are. This is like the number of content pieces that we really need on a weekly basis, like get us the goal of maybe the goal for that client like that week is this that month is let's grow the followers, let's grow the engagement and whatnot. All right. So whatever content piece we need, we make that happen. You understand? So we're not like, we are planning again, like, towards a goal. You understand? We're also going from monthly cadence to weekly cadence. So that would mean that every week we are like, for some clients, of course, it will be like, some content pieces will be planned bi-weekly. Yeah, for sure. But we are going from like that monthly content planning to like, weekly. You understand? And then we are judging things not based on, oh, like I delivered this, but like based on, did you really like achieve the goal that we wanted, what I wanted it to achieve. Say for example, if some content pieces, right, they are for, let's say like, to get followers, to get views or whatever, like, instead of say, okay, oh, we posted this content now, it needs to be from a point of like, this actually delivered a goal, that we wanted it to do. You understand? So then of course we are going from content only to like, every level, available. So like level in the sense that we are utilizing literally like every content format, every like content avenue, everything that we really need to like get the brand going to where they want to go. You understand? So now that said, I think like it's best like we start like maybe like talking about possible things, all right? From this shift, all right? there might be like an issue from your end based on like what you do, in each department. All right. So like each of you, like first of all, like let me know if you understand what I've been saying so far, and also like let each person like like talk about like possible things that you feel like, okay, this might like especially like when it comes to like this whole weekly thing, making use of like all the content formats available or whatever, right? Like based in practice, wherever it is that you own, which actually like worries you the most, out of all of this, right? And what exactly is it? And is there anything that we need as well, like to make sure we're actually delivering is like everything stated and all of that. So yeah, who's going first? Like each person will have to talk for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to say that this is great. But it's okay, not a but. Like this is from two angles. There's what we're doing, and then there's what the clients will be doing. So my worry is actually getting the clients to do what they're supposed to do. Because first things first, let's say if you have a goal and the goal is say to get a lot of views or to get a lot of followers, there are certain kind of content that needs to be done that will require them to actually act on it for that for us to be able to achieve that goal. Say for example, maybe one of the goals we want is a demonstrative content or maybe a yapping content, and we decide that this week, because of the goal that we have, we want to push out 20 pieces of content or 30 pieces of content, and out of that 30 pieces of content, 15 of those pieces of content may require them to actually sit in front of camera to actually do something, whether it's a selfie kind of video or it's a talking head. And my worry is a lot of them, for example, people like Sao, people like Priyanka, even people like Jamie, may not exactly have the time to do all of that. So how do we work towards actually really getting that goal that we've set to achieve when we are not getting all the things that we need to make it happen? I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. So I've already had a conversation with Jamie and Priyanka.
Okay.
Priyanka, like, actually raised that as well. Okay, I'm actually busy. I don't have time. So the way we are conquering this is that we are, using everything available, every content format. I actually don't really believe too much that a particular piece of content would, you need to do like, let's say video, for example, like, for you to like grow by fire by force. Like, I believe like every content format, like, works. So it's just like, again, the biggest thing is, more of the idea behind it. All right. See, for example, on my new account, like one of the carousels I was posted, like almost 200 followers, like, from one carousel. The videos as well, like, they bring followers, the carousels bring followers. It's like, okay, so what's up? Like, so, but anyway, the way we conquer that is like, we actually need to understand the client's capacity for sure. All right. When I had a conversation with Priyanka last week, she mentioned that she would rather, when it comes to anything talking heads, she would rather like, we send everything, like we do that aspect on a monthly basis, and then everything else to be done like on a weekly, because it doesn't really demand that time. So stuff like microwave reels or stuff like carousels, trial reels, or stuff like that. You understand? So that would mean that like we understand the client's recording capacity. Somebody like Jamie, for example, I had a conversation with her. She mentioned that she can record like every week, maybe like 3 pieces of content or whatever every week. That works. So that would mean that we're going to be doing talking heads. It needs to be around 3. Then we put like the other weight of growth on other content formats. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Who's the next person?
Okay. I think I'll go next. Problem for me is the number of content that might not be coming in per week in terms of like the video side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how, or I'm not sure if we put all, I think we have about like 12 clients, and I think 10 or let's say 8 of them are like probably going to be active on this, apart from like people like Priyanka and the rest. If we load all of this on just 2 video editors, I don't think or I'm not maybe I'm not visualizing it well yet, but I'm not sure it will like be really effective for us, especially for the speed we want to run at. So what I would do if it were me, like what you said, we said we should talk about what we'll do. I think I'll consider like what the workload per week might look like and what like each or if we need more video editors in or like more hands on deck basically.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a possible fix for that, right? And it's not all the content species that will be created equal, all right? Say, for example, like when it comes to trial reels, like this, we're experimenting majorly with microwave reels, all right? And I don't believe like microwave reels, like, need to take like, I don't think it should take more than 10 minutes per one of them, right? Because again, it's like B-roll text and stuff like that. Then we just like make sure like when it comes to heavy lifting content, like let's say talking heads, for now, you will most likely actually like, limit that to like let's say a client, all right? You can't do more than maybe 4 or 5 of that like in a week, thereabout. And also there's also like another fix as well, that I will discuss like shortly. But I believe like us again just working with different content formats, all right? And they're like, sort of like balancing based on the capacities that we have, like really help us fix that problem. And there's also carousel in there too. You understand?
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to mention that like I think things are low on the design side as well, so we can also add more stuff there.
Yeah, exactly. Who is next?
Okay, so on the content side, like we're going to do like a lot of scripting. I don't think one hand will be able to like think that in terms of how many scripts we need to like deliver or how many clients we need to like work on for that week, basically.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I think I think we might be needing like help, like another hands like on deck too, because so far I don't really think Precious will be able to like deliver everything like that. Working on all clients just alone with this new process. If we're going to be writing scripts or process too as well. I mean the structure stuff like back and forth.
Okay. So there's also like a possible fix for that, right? Which is I believe like the process I've been working with so far. All right. Although I've not looked at what Precious did particularly for Mary fully, but she sent it to me like I'll check that out, But the process I've been working on together, like with you guys, I believe like has been it's really enough to like help us like work on scripting and all that like faster for these clients, right? Because if for example, what's her name? Alex, right? You see this doc that I sent to Alex? Let me see if I can put that up. Let me show this one. So look at this first week of August date for Alex. That was done. All right? I'm frozen. All right? All of this right here that you're looking at, it contains, again, the entire content plan. It has like 7 talking heads actually. 7 talking heads. Each of them, they have their own structure. Then we have the bureaus, text on bureau or whatever. Then we now have carousel, like, full written script carousel and all of that. Everything that I've seen right here, like, Grace, it didn't take more than 1 hour, 30 minutes to do. You understand? And the reason why I didn't take that long is simply because we're not doing it based on, like, this is not created from, okay, like, I'm trying to, like, find something new for the client or, trying to say, okay, like, it's not done from a place of I'm not clear about what I'm doing. A lot of times, like, what really delays this time for what really delays like these things being written is that we are not already like following structure that already works. So if you look at this lady's talking heads, for example, right? It's you know just like look for topic and put in there. So and also for the fact that we didn't have like script like something for you understand. Then if you look at carousel, this was totally written by AI, right? But again, it's already based on like a structure of a carousel that already works. So I believe like we're able to like combine, you have a process of course like with the scripting thing. You combine that with like you understanding what you're really looking for, and then use AI for it. I don't really think it should be taking us long because right now, if like with the normal route of us like maybe like not using AI to write or whatever, you understand? That's supposed to take us like 5 content scripts a day, right? I think that's like what we agreed on, 5 scripts a day, right? But if we really combine all of this, and then if you look at this content piece as well, it's not everything that's like heavy lifting. 7 of these, and also what would also help is that when we're putting together the content direction in the first place, if you look at Mary's stuff, for example, if you see these trial reels that I came up with for her, right? If you look at each trial reel, the point of what the caption will be is already there. So we just have to load this into it. Okay, look, like write the caption based on these 7 things. You don't need to like now having to be cracking your brain. I was like, I need to like write something new there or whatever. So that would mean that when you are planning the content itself, trial reels, for example, like add maybe like the caption direction to some of them. That really helps like the final script because we're able to like load that into like AI, it's like work faster. You understand? Then also like putting the whole inspo thing that we talked about as well, direction references and all of that. I believe like this will also help us like reduce like time of execution and for all of these things to be done. I don't know if that makes sense.
Makes sense. But this AI thing, now you can see what happened with Priyanka. Like, I feel like we'll get to a time where, I don't know, where we get sense, like, we will not then start relying just on AI alone. Then AI is not giving us what we want. And it's not like, okay, I can't do this because it's not, AI is not getting me right.
Yeah. So of course, like what I said is not about like us totally relying on AI. So I mentioned that you understanding the direction of the content in the first place, putting the right inspirations in there, like actually like putting the structure in place like fully when you're putting the content topics together really helps. So I'm not saying like we have to like plug all of our things into like AI, of course not. But again, using AI as a tool, not necessarily like you are relying on it for like the strategy or the reference or the inspo behind the topic. It won't give you anything.
Okay, so the structure, like the main structure really have to come back from the topics, then down to the script.
Exactly, 100%.
Okay.
So it needs to come from like how you plan the topics. Say for example, like these talking heads. Wait, is it the same? Is it the same dog that was said? I thought you already added inspo to this dog, or is it a different dog?
No, I think it's a different dog. I brought them out. I think I picked them out.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. So say for example, like for the talking heads, right? You already added reference to each, and I believe like what also made Precious to be able to work on that thing very fast. Because I don't really think like from the moment we sort of like did that demo for the first one until she delivered like the full thing to me, I don't think it took like up to 2 hours for that. Although I've not looked at it, right? I haven't. But again, AI is all about the information and direction you're feeding it. So when we have that clarity up front, we have like the right references, we have like the right hooks, the right topics, things get easier from there. You understand? And then, of course, like again, please don't rely on AI. Use it as a tool. Okay? Don't say, okay, we are just like, sitting back and let AI do the work. No, you have to like weave it, Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. And also, this would also mean that, like, sometimes, Grace, all right, when you have, time, you might be, you might be in that position to be chipping in, like, here and there sometimes. So okay, like, let's like reduce this work like when it comes to scripting or whatever. Just like what I'm doing when it comes to like putting together topics and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about all of that like shortly in terms of like what wants what. So yeah, who else? Who's the next person?
Um, okay. So I think I'm like the last point before output. So basically, I think anything that might likely maybe say slow down what I do is all of the bottlenecks that the other departments have mentioned. So I feel like if we're able to get all of those on track, my part is feasible on any end.
All right. For the trial reels, right? You said you put proxy in try that mobile proxy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because I feel like using a phone might be much more faster and easier than this. For this, especially when it comes to these old trial reels, you understand? So for most clients, right, where I'm looking at running these old things that we are posting like one trial reel a day. So that's like 7 a week, right? And then we're not like for the feed content, we are distributing the feed content across like other different content formats, like the talking heads, the carousels, the what else, the micro reviews and all of that. So I think we would, I don't know if we're able to like, have you tried logging in to any clients stuff here on your phone with the proxy stuff, with the proxy setup?
Yeah, I have Wasia's. That's because she doesn't require any like verification to get in. But the other clients, I'll have to have them like on board to log in again.
Okay, no problem. I think that's like something we get to really iron out. So you guys need to figure it out. Maybe have a conversation with the clients or I don't know, but we can test run it and see how that goes.
Thank you. Also, let me just put this out there. I realize that there are some accounts that cannot post trial reels. I don't know if anybody has experienced it.
Mm-hmm. Which account?
Like my own personal account now, I don't have a feature on it.
What kind of account? Is it business or creator account?
It's a business account. Yes,
okay.
It's a business account.
Okay, yeah, I believe majority of the clients that we have, they should be able to post Ferraris, but if they can't post Ferraris, that's fine. That would just mean that those content pieces will go on their feed.
All right, just putting it out. Thank you.
All right, so now that said, so this is the shift we are making, all right? So they are like, now for us to talk about like each change. Is that somebody raising up their hand? Are we all done talking, actually? Miss Sommer, it's your turn.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, please shoot.
The content that you said we are moving from monthly to weekly. The question I had was, is it now going to be like, let's say, the same amount of content that we're releasing on a monthly basis? It's not going to be divided like the same amount, but divided per week.
No. So there's like there's no number, fixed number.
Any
content. Yeah, it's like based on me and Grace, first of all, like planning the content pieces that will be going out for that week. You guys being aware of it. So if you look at somebody like what's her name, for example, Alex, right? All of this, for example, is supposed to be posted this week. So we have like, again, these ones will go into trial reels. We have carousels, then we have talking heads. You get the point. So, and this was actually created based on the fact that we need to keep growing and also make money at the same time simultaneously, because she already has like over 8,000 followers right now. And that growth must not stall. So that's why you see like some of the talking heads right here, they are like labeled viral talking heads, particularly designed for like reaching people Then we have like something about like conversions, which is like again calling people to action to book calls. Then carousel as well is for conversion, and this right here is for reaching people and all of that. So it will not be the same for every client. Some clients might just have like maybe like not more than 7. It just depends on like wherever it is we decide. So there's no set number for each client. Does that make sense? All right. So is there anything else before we move on, guys?
Yeah, just one question. Are we now going to be using Google Doc, or we are still going to be using Notion? Because I feel like if we are
going to be using.
Yeah.
We are going to be using both. I will discuss that shortly. It's also like what I will talk about. Yeah. All right. So now that's it. The first change, like I said, all right, no more capped packages, all right? So, for example, when a client is testing, we need to make a lot of content. When we find out what works, we make fewer and better, of course, but we make fewer content, yes. It might not be true, but anyway, the whole idea is more like we just need more volume, all right? Now, more volume doesn't necessarily mean content per se. It also reflects like your funnel, reflects like your story. Say for example, last week was when I sent what was her name, Alex's story strategy to her. That, okay, this is what you need to be posting your stories. So there's no cap. Like the packages are no longer like post this number of content pieces per month. But, it's like what do we need to be doing on a weekly basis, like to get growth happening. You understand? So, but although, all right, there will be a promise, all right, of like 5 pieces of content a month, actually a week. I mean, so that means like no matter what the season is for the client, at least 5 pieces of content will go out. So that as a carousel, microwave reels, talking head or whatever, at least 5 will be going out. You understand? All right. Then there's like a concern right here that I actually have. What volume does quality start to drop? The way that I'll make sure that quality doesn't drop is that, again, this whole content is not going to be based on filler content pieces. Like every content piece I'm actually posting, there must be a reason, a strategy behind it. Not for showing up sake. You understand? Because the moment you start to like do that, because we need to like meet this number, and that's a problem. And this will likely be from my end, and also like Grace's end. So please take note of this, like Grace, planning content or researching topics and all of that. All right.
Yeah.
Then number 2 is like again, we plan every week. So we review Mondays like this. Okay, we decide, we plan, then we send it to the client. So every week we are planning content basically. You understand? So last week, for example, we planned what was her name? Mary's content script to be done today. We planned Alex, that has been sent over to her. Priyanka as well. So again, we review what works. So that will help you decide what to do, Grace. That will be like very, very meticulous about okay, every piece of content we put out, last week, how did you perform? The ones that are supposed to be more rich, like which one of them got the most rich? What is the, by the way, I'll be designing a new sheet, Excel sheets that will be helping us track, by the way, Georgina. So yeah, I'm going to be following that. But anyway, so we're like very, very meticulous about like, okay, which one, brought the most link clicks, the most views, stuff like that. So that will help decide on, okay, this is the top video I'm going to be doing next. You understand? And if I'm going to be introducing any new thing, okay, we can actually test this new thing based on what I've been working. Who's that?
I'm the one. So I was just thinking, if we're doing weekly basis, we're planning weekly. So that means that so I'm trying to understand what day does planning happen, scripting happen, sending the stuff to the clients, especially the videos that they need to do for them to send in before we send to editors to edit, and then we start posting. Like I'm trying to understand what the whole system is going to look like in a way that we do not miss any day of posting.
Okay, what's the suggestion?
Well, I'm thinking that instead of weekly planning, from the client's end, they see that it is weekly planning, but from our own end, we are planning per 2 weeks instead of weekly. So that means that for this week we're working on this week and next week, so that by the time it is towards the end of the week we already have all the things we need for the next week. But that's something I need to think properly about again. But that's off the top of my head. That's one thing I can think
So
of doing.
what I would put us in is like it put us in a 14-day feedback loop, not 7.
Yeah, there's that. But at the same time, if we don't practice something like that, or practice anything better than that, if we want to stick to just the 7 days, we are going to have it. We're going to have breaks, because the scripting team are creating, they are making research and all. The edit guys are there. The carousel guys are, well, carousel and edit, they are happening at the same time. So
So here is the thing, because it's not just one person that is running the entire process, right? I don't really believe like we're going to run into problems. So I would talk about like the solution that that I have in mind, like shortly. But just on a brief hint, I'm thinking of like us having different days for different clients,
oh, okay.
right? Say for example, like Alex. Let's say we like Alex, like we just work on maybe Alex and another client on a Monday. Tuesday can be another person. You get. So say for example, if we split like a client's day into 2. Somebody like Alex now, all right? We can know that okay, this last batch of things that was actually sent to her, all right? It means that like we are supposed to like start executing that like let's say by Wednesday. I think it was sent to her on Thursday or Friday. Can't remember exactly when. Right? So this can actually mean that on Monday when she sends her stuff in by let's say weekend, Mondays we make sure that every content piece that we are supposed to actually send over to her or to be done based on the plan is done. You understand? So we can have like okay, Alex half of the day, working day for or half of like Monday for example be towards Alex, and the remaining half can be for another client. So then let's say another half for Alex can be on Thursday to plan our content, because there are 2 parts to this, right? The planning and the execution, correct? Understand? So we can dedicate like half days for each of this, right? So we can say like half working day for Alex's content execution, then another half that can be on a Monday. Then on a Thursday, the second half can be about the content planning. Does that make sense? I don't know if you guys are guessing what I'm saying. Hello?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Grace, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to put it together too, like, but I think it makes sense. So what you're saying is that we are going to be picking each day, or we can divide each client's work to like maybe we work on Alex today. We can decide to do like half of our work and do another client's half of. Is that what you're saying? Then we that day again, then we complete it, then like another day for another client, like something like that.
Yeah.
Now
Exactly. So it's in 2 parts, all right? We have the planning, which is largely from again me, you, and what was her name? Precious. Scripting, content topics, planning, and all of that. You understand? But our content planning, scripting, stuff like that, they don't really come until the last week's content is already executed, right?
Yeah.
So that will be like we'll push that like later in the week, for example, somebody like Alex. But earlier in the week, that will be like half of that, right? Just focusing on doing that for Alex. Then earlier in the week, let's say today, when everything that we need, like we've already written the script for like carousel, we've written the script for microwave reels, and then maybe like she's already sent in like videos as well, like talking heads. That would mean that day, let's say Monday, will be about like getting all of these content pieces together, particularly for her. Does that make sense? So that means like the carousel that has been assigned on that day will be Alex's carousel. The microwave reels being done will be like, okay, let's finish like Alex's microwave reels. Then also the talking heads as well, like largely will be about like Alex's talking heads.
okay.
So we have that like, across each week. So that would mean that we are having like, we are working on like, each clients of like, twice in a week.
Yeah. So the delay,
Yeah, go.
if there's going to be a delay, it's not going to be from our end. It's going to be maybe the client is not sent in their videos on time. So I think that means we'll have to give them like a timeline, okay, deadline for them to send in their stuff to as well, so that there's not going to be like a pause.
Exactly. And this would also mean that you guys are actually aware of like each client's recording date. You know that somebody like for the clients that can maybe like record during the weekend, yes, we have like our 2 days for them. For the people that are like record during the week, we have like our 2 days for them. Does that make sense? So this way you get like very, very strategic about like how we do this. And then again, even if the client is not able to like record talking every day, for example, this would not even stop us. Because you know that the content pieces are not just like talking head videos. We are making use of all of the content formats. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is this clear? Guys, questions, Jen, Sai?
No questions. I'm good.
Yeah, I think we just need to like lay it out, because just so that we don't forget, just lay it out maybe like on the doc, so that we can always go back to it and read through.
Yeah, so that is where you guys would actually own. I believe like by now, you should have like information about like when clients are recording, stuff. If you don't, you need to ask, all right? So whatever part you are owning, you need to like come up with like, this is actually like, my, maybe like recommended like, day for this client, for execution. Like you need to own that and lay it out for yourself, basically, and share it with the team.
Okay.
Sound good, guys? And again, I'm banking all of this on the fact that like we are doing what we are supposed to be doing, like on time. There's no drag. There is no like procrastination. All right, because if there's something that we like learned over the past like weeks, is that like if you just like focus on what you're supposed to be doing, like 1 or 2 hours, we can really achieve a whole lot of things, and especially when it comes to content planning, for clients. So again, please, we need to be doing what we're supposed to be doing at the time we're supposed to be doing it. So we're not like bragging, because or else we are not working on the time frame we're supposed to be working on. Then it will not be like, okay, we are not meeting up, or we're not meeting up because we're not like doing what we're supposed to be doing at the time we're supposed to be doing it. Okay. All right. So that said, the third thing is like again, content is no longer like the lever anymore. So we're using like every format, prior reuse. We are basically like making use of everything, and this would also help us, like I said, offload like it means like we are like making the contents like across like high energy content, low energy content, like everything is flowing as it's supposed to be flowing, right? Because we are like banking on not just like hard work, but more of leverage, basically like across everywhere. You understand? And also I'm trying to like focus on moving forward. I'm thinking of like just focusing on Instagram. I don't want to be doing like no LinkedIn, no nothing for like other clients. Just like again, really mastering Instagram, until like maybe we'll do something else. Okay. Now, yeah, this is like what I was saying, right? Like 1 client a day, 2 at most. Okay. So we split it into like half, right? Half working day for, a client, then another half working day for another client. So that would be like, the way we plan the half will be like across the 2 different parts that we are working on, right? Which is like planning and execution. So that means like each day we're having planning and execution, right? From Monday to Friday. Say for example, today can be like execution of like Alex's content, right? Plus planning of Mari's content. Does that make sense? Right? Because that Mari records during the week. So that would be like, today, for example, right? We are like, doing Mari stuff, right, for scripting. And then when it comes to, it can even be more than 2 clients, like, thinking about it, because now the planning side is in 2 phases, right? The whole content research, topics, then scripting, correct, Grace?
Yeah.
Right? So that would be like, was someone like Mari, for example, Pressure is supposed to finish her script. It doesn't like, concern you. So that means that our other clients that we are having, we can be researching topics for them today. Someone like Jimmy, for example, will be today for Jimmy. Content research, then scripting to finish for like Mari, then Alex finishing all about execution of content. So the carousels, the microwave reels, and also like the talking heads that she uploads. Do you get like how this would work like up because of that? Because we are dividing the days based on planning, scripting, and execution. Are we all on the same page? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And Chris, my part makes sense.
All right, Sai, is this clear from your end? And Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if
All
we
right.
do, if we do
Yeah.
two, if we are doing two, it works because I mean we have 11 clients or 12 clients, so we have to do more than one to be able to meet up.
Yeah. All right. So now, is there any questions at this point? I actually have a few here. What happens when the client's recording there, like, when they are not able to record and they are supposed to record? Then, what happens? This would be like the execution guys, right? No more the planning guys. So that's like Jen and Sai. As a question for you guys.
Okay. So two things I'm thinking. We either do a repost or we pick like an old B-roll that has been done before and just do a quick microwave with it and post. That is, if maybe we're supposed to post a talking head, it's not working, we'll post a microwave reel instead.
Okay, Sai.
I think we can just turn an old document video into a carousel.
Okay, so that's a great one, but we wouldn't do that, all right? Because like if a client actually like if you miss something when you're supposed to record, let's say for example you choose to be recording every 2 weeks, and then we plan like okay you're talking heads not more than maybe like 6 or 7 across these 2 weeks, and then you don't record it, there has to be a penalty, and the penalty is that see that like that whole running around, jumping around thing that okay, oh you didn't record today. Let's say for example your recording is supposed to be during the weekend. They are shooting that to Wednesday, and then you now expect us to like still not deliver stuff to you by the following day. You're not following the plan. No, like that would mean that we'll reset in the next is it the next day or the next cycle for the client, which is the week. Does that make sense? Say for example, if you're supposed to record your talking head videos on, you're supposed to send that to us like on Sunday, and then you didn't do it this week. We'll exhibit other content plans, yes. But you see that talking head particularly, that would mean like you push that like next week, all right? It's not that when you now record it like now, we're not like trying to like edit now because that stops the flow of other clients. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but now I have another question, which is that if we're trying to like achieve the goal that we want to achieve for the client, if we're pushing it,
So it's a two-way street, right? The fact that we're trying to like achieve a goal doesn't mean like you don't play your part. It's a 50-50 thing. And if you're not playing your part, like which is also the reason like I feel like not capping their content really works for this as well. Because it's not like I don't want this to be like okay, with the fact that we're trying to like make the clients grow, now means like you now be lazy. You not be not showing up the way you're supposed to show up, or you're not talking. Now this doesn't mean that life doesn't happen. Don't get me wrong. Life happens. But it just means that like how should I say? It's a balance, right? 50-50. You show up where you're supposed to show up, we do what we're supposed to do. And it's a two-way street. There's a client side and also our own side as well. So you guys just like keep this in mind. If genuinely it's going to like affect like the production of like other client stuff, he needs to communicate that with the client. That okay, look, it won't happen like this, We have to wait until this day for you to actually see this delivered to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is also the reason why you guys need to be very, very aware of when it's like, okay, this is the schedule for this client to this like, we've all agreed on this, if for some reason you're not able to do that. And I feel like again, the fact that we are like also diversifying the content anywhere across everywhere, it means that the clients still show up, you still show up regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But just that, okay, look, if you're not executing everything supposed to execute, definitely like there'll be like there's a penalty here and there, like of course. You get makes sense?
Yeah, one more question, sorry.
Yeah.
People like Wasia that have special needs in terms of like have their own goals, like are we also going to be running that at the background simultaneously?
What kind of needs are you talking about?
No, like she does YouTube, like essay basically handles that. Like are we still going to, while this is running, we'll still be running our thing the way it is? Or like is it like we're still going to be running the stuff at the background, like reviewing everything that's been happening, we have it still continuing like that. And we're now doing this with the other clients, right?
Wait, I didn't get your Wasia stuff. Like I said, I was going to be editing videos for our YouTube. I didn't get you.
Like doing everything that we're doing for her now, while we're also doing this for the other clients.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like now, what has been happening so far with Wasia exactly from your end? Just like I know what we're talking about right here.
No, nothing crazy. I just wanted to know if, like, because you said you are stopping LinkedIn for some clients. I wanted to know if you are dropping like all of that so that we can focus on this. That's what.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so for the clients that have already been sold, like packages and stuff like that for LinkedIn, yeah, that will continue. But how should I say? For someone like WhatsApp, for example, particularly LinkedIn, for the guys that that has been discussed already before, yeah, we'll stick to it. But for new people, this is like the new way. And also for a select few clients as well, that some clients already had a conversation with like somebody like Priyanka, Alex, Christy, they're all on board this. So for those guys, we are any client I mentioned, okay, like we are not doing LinkedIn for them and we don't do LinkedIn for them.
Okay.
Spirit, yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right. So now there'll be 2 meetings every week, right? Monday, the client review and plan, which is like what we're doing on Mondays. So we'll go by the client by client, and decide, like, even on the call, okay, like what works. So again, this is where, like I said, this whole thing, like, how should I say, the moment you actually remove the whole idea of it's a hard job from your mind, that's when things really get to be simple and fast, all right? Say, for example, each week, what we are planning for, like, each week should be based on what happened the following week. If we do a good job of really being strategic and being, like, measuring results, like, very well, you're, like, looking at, okay, what happened to these clients, and this cuts across, like, literally everybody, all right? Grace, for example, I'm looking at, okay, which all those content pieces that we actually pushed out for these clients, what does the number say? Which pieces actually worked? What is the topic? What's the format? What is the hook? Like, you are able to really, like, start to pay attention to patterns. And that's how come, like, what I showed you guys, like, for Alex, right? That is the reason why, like, I was, like, plan this full content within 1 hour, 30 minutes for her. Because I'm not doing it based on trying to, like, find a unicorn or, like something new. Everything that we're looking for is already right there on her page, because although, like, maybe it won't be the same for every new client, right? Because someone like Mari, for example, these new content that we'll push together, that I'll put for her last week is really majorly based on something new. You understand? So that work was a little bit, like, hard on me. I spent, like, a few hours to make that happen, but I didn't spend a full day, of course, to do it. But that would mean that now, like, when we actually push everything out there for this marriage stuff, that means, like, the following week, next week, you are measuring, okay, which of these topics really worked, or what the hook say, then that will help you shape what is coming the following week. Does that make sense? Because then you're able to like really move fast and not be like in the frame of, because I believe what really prolongs execution of things is you not knowing what the heck you're doing really. Because when you don't know what you're doing, you're not clear about, okay, this is like the plan, this is like what I'm working based on. You tend to like go around in circles and circles and circles. But when you're measuring results, you get to work faster. You get what I'm saying? So please, let's make sure this is happening. All right, so Monday, client review and plan, and Wednesday, team coaching. So I'll be leading both meetings, like in Worry Forward as well, by the way. So Monday is where we actually get to decide like what's actually working, what are we doing this week. And Wednesday is basically where we do team coaching. So, we get better, because I don't really believe like Wednesdays should be where, I don't know, what do you guys normally discuss right now on Wednesdays? Side, what do you talk about on Wednesdays?
Go over the sheets. We go over like what we can do better. Then we go over the sheets, the tracker, and then we talk about like if there are any issues, plan issues we need to solve.
Okay, so so that would be like every planning thing will be happening on Mondays. Wednesdays, majorly, is going to be about really helping the team get better. All right, so that of course like we'll maybe like spend like 5 or 10 minutes like discuss what happened, like your numbers or whatever, right? But majorly it's going to be about like coaching. Make sense? So I'll be leading both. All right.
All right.
Then what else? So the tools, which is like the question Jen asked, Google Docs versus Notion. So we are going to be using Google Docs for everything before recording. Now the reason for this is because it's easier for the clients to read and comment on one, and it also helps us build it into like one long record for the brand, where we are like eventually able to like easily plug that same record into like AI, for example, as a resource file. You understand that we can reuse over and over again. Okay, see for example, if you look at why and it should be we should be doing it like this. Okay, so if you look at Monday memo email for Wasia, for example, the Monday memo email I've been written like since March and see everything right here. So that would be like if I download all of this now, for example, for Wasia, this ends up becoming a resource. You get so, and then it's labeled by tab. All right, this is like 23rd of March. You get everything being here. You understand? So that would be like somebody like what's her name? This for example, what's her name? All right. Everything should be. Look at this. First week of August. That means like this week for Alex used to be the doc, right? Then when we're planning the next week, just put another doc right here. So imagine we have like a long thing of this, and then eventually in the next 3 months or 4 months, you have like this doc that basically like it becomes like this brain for this brand. So that's why I don't take like Notion. We'll be using Notion to plan anything before the record. You understand? So where Notion comes is like everything after the client records and approves their script. So like we are transferring like the videos, the edits, the caption. So we are able to like use Notion to like measure like where are we in the progress, in the process. All right, the editing and design progress, scheduling and posting status, task assignment, and who has what. Does that sound good? Is this clear?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So Grace, everything like the doc and all of that, you'll be owning that. All right, the Google Doc thing. So please, I think we've already mentioned I think I mentioned this to you last week, right? Have like one doc for everybody. All right. Then we're going to be labeling like this. So like that means like next time I'm doing what's the name? What was the name? Alex's store. We just create a new tab and then boom, have it right here. We put it date by date for each client. All right. So yeah. What else? Okay. So that said, who owns what? Who owns what? So for me, overall strategy. All right. So the content strategy and direction for every client All right, that's where I really come in. The weekly meetings as well. We go like, brand vibe, coming up with the content pillars for the clients, doing all of that. And also I'll be stepping in like, on topics like, sometimes for other clients. So essentially it's going to be other clients like, what's her name? Mary, Grace. Because Mary's topic was so crazy. I had to work on it with her twice, actually. But figuring that out was really cool. So usually I had clients, I'll be stepping in for topics, understand? But like overall brand strategy direction, I'll be owning that. And Grace, weekly content topics and inspiration, you own that. So you are checking everything against the brand direction, of course. So that's like everything you are coming up with, the inspiration, the content topics, structure or whatever, right? You want to make sure it's in line with the brand vibe and the brand direction. Okay? And also like making sure before you write content topics, direction, and like analyze it. Last week, before up and in the neck, at least like occasionally sometimes step in for like scripts, we're not able to, because like now that like I was Precious been going away for like 5 days, right? Or how many days she been away for? Because I am aware of this.
Yeah.
You think it is
So again,
That's why I told her I was
Both of us.
before with her.
Yeah, go on.
Better, so you can compare all these things. But
Yeah.
you should just be talking.
Yeah, and I feel like the whole thing that what is working is like
That's
it's
if you see all these things that match, that you
Exactly.
just go.
I don't blame her now. All this coach will say, come and buy my kidney, come to me, come. You can do this. So they talk with mouth.
I don't know, not going
Then person may there's a
I
people now,
feel
and
like
you can't
it's
get out of
it's all stuff that we want to fix it out here. So I'm thinking, what happens if we've not posted those stuff? How am I going to track? How am I going to know what to track?
Okay, great question. So this is where, all right, the whole content schedule thing with the clients matter. All right. So we're gonna have somebody like Alex, for example, right? We are pushing our content planning to the end of the week, to Thursday and Friday, because we know fully well that like throughout the week should have actually posted. You get the point. And also with this new process for clients like Maria or these other guys, I don't really think like majority of these clients, right, people like Christy, for example, we are in charge of the posting, right? So there is no way, there is no how they will not post, for you to actually measure, because we are in charge of it. So there's like, Georgina, like, that would be a problem from Georgina, like, not posting the content pieces like, supposed to be client. So somebody like Christy now, throughout this week, all right, should have actually recorded our bureau. So that means like, we are like, we need to execute like in terms of, we post our remaining talking heads, of course. Then we design all of like, what's the name? We do all of the, what's it called? The execution of the content piece, like, early on as well. So that by, Friday, but I think like, Chrissy, she's really in the habit of recording weekends, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that would mean that eventually, again, like, this whole thing balances out, right? Grace? Let's say, for example, like after 2 weeks, okay, I've already, sort of like know what works and what doesn't work, because they went to like, start to track every week, and we are doing more of what works every week. So that would mean like, what works last week, most likely will be the same that I already worked like, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. Does that make sense? So because like Alex, for example, what shaped like the content topics I sent to her last week Friday, it's not just based on what worked the week before. It's also like, what has been working for the past 2 or 3 weeks. And also like, what the goal is for, the following week. Because for example, I will not be posting carousels for Alex, right? But I have to put in carousels in there because we are in the conversion stage now. So that the carousels are actually put in there, it's not based on carousels that were posted in the past. It's based on, okay, we need to post conversion content. Now, paying attention to what works versus what doesn't work like each week doesn't necessarily mean all of the content pieces that I'm planning will be based on only what works last week. So you're only going to be based on the goals, all right? And then you say, okay, like, did this work last week? Okay, let a fraction of like what you're doing be based on what worked last week. Does that make sense? So you get to like really decide that how you're doing it yourself. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So Yeah, then side, you are in charge of like video recording and edit quality. So like, client recording setup, gear, test runs. You want to actually make sure that, okay, look, when each client's video, when things are already assigned to the editors, right? You want to make sure that all the assets are ready before editors even start. Say, for example, like last week for Chris's videos, where he has like communicate with, what's her name? What's her name? It's Kenny, exactly. So that is like each thing that has been assigned to the editors, you look through, all right? Look at the inspirations, the inspos, the references, the scripts, like everything. So whatever assets we need to make sure we're like, executing the one we want to execute, you need to get that ready for the editors before the edits, because that really cuts down time. It's basically like, the whole back and forth we release that 20. Okay, and you want to make sure that the edits are really following references and brand vibe. So that means like, you are really very, very meticulous with like your what you're looking out for in the videos, giving like proper feedback as was listening. Okay, all right, good. Then Jen, project management, like weekly plans. You want to make sure like everything goes out on time, so you're like aware of like the schedule of the clients, like really well. Content posted, and when it should be. Okay, your own Notion and task assignment, like again, this is not easy work. All right, so you want to like know every client's recording day, like everything happening, and then like you're managing things like seamlessly. All right, then summer, you're supporting them across like project management, of course, quality checks, like every content piece. You're catching problems before the client does, please. All right, then Georgina, you are posting the content for the client based on the schedule. So when you say, okay, like, this is actually good for client trial reviews, you post that, everything's already like laid out for you on Notion. You are filling the tracking sheet every Monday. Of course, I'll be doing a new tracking sheet. Even a new, like, I think a new sheet as well generally, because I feel like what I don't really like the way it looks. So that sheet's all review on Mondays. Okay. Sound good?
Yes.
So there are some questions, right? Everyone, like, is there anything on your list that you feel should not be yours? Or is there anything that we're missing that nobody's name is on?
I guess that goes without saying anyways. Once the content plan is gotten, assigning the carousels and also assigning the videos.
What's the question? I didn't get you.
I said that goes without saying anyways. I just say what is not specifically written is assigning the carousels and also assigning the videos. But yeah, that goes without saying.
Yeah, you own the Notion and task assignment.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else that's not anything, or is there anything we are missing? You guys, like, pay attention to your process, all right, please. It's things you've been doing. Like, is there anything that is missing that is not here?
For reporting, so we do monthly reports at the moment, and I know that Danielle had requested quarterly reports. So do we want to just continue to do only monthly reports, or now that we're doing weekly planning, do we want to be doing weekly reports? That is the one we're sending to the clients, not the one we're doing internally.
So weekly reports thing is for us internally. We are still doing monthly reports for the client generally.
Okay.
Yeah. And who is that? Is somebody told us to say something?
Yeah, Ms. Soma, sorry, before you go, let me just say one last thing. I think we also need to write out what the process, or state out what the process for the report is. Because right now, I think Georgina said she had done her part, remaining Gracie and Bami's part. So that needs to also be clearly stated out as well, so that process can be followed.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, for me, I upload scripts to Notion, but since you said that we're not using Notion until the end when everything is already out.
Yeah. So the way it will work is that when you say when everything is out, like it's not like when the video is edited. It's like, say for example, like right now that the client already, let me see. Now that the client already, like somebody like Alex, for example, now, right? Right now everything right is already approved, correct? So that means that you can actually go ahead and load all of this already in Notion. But it's not from a point of like the clients looking into Notion to find their script, or from a point of okay when they're now sending their videos or want to assign the carousels and all of that, all right, you're like using that to assign because everything has been written. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So now like please load everything into Notion and let's assign. Anyway, we choose like what we are assigning for today. Anyway. So is there anything else anyone? Anything else? All right. So if there's nothing else, let's move on. Okay. Well, yeah, I think what you're supposed to be doing. A few questions right here. What breaks in week one? Which clients is the hardest? Is this hardest with? What are you being asked to do without the tools for it? And what are we still doing that we should stop? So, guys, I think I'm putting this one like open. Anyone else like answer any of the 4 questions, please? Let's go. Anyone should pick I think you guys should pick like any of these 4 questions and answer. Just so we are all putting everything on the table, please.
For week one, I believe because it's a new process, we are definitely introducing to everybody. One thing that I see that can break is getting everybody's content when we're supposed to get it. So it means that there are some people we may miss posting times for because they've not sent in what we asked them to send. And I also believe since it's a new system that was just introduced this morning, before the script writers will get into getting the contents and the scripts done, that may take a little bit of time. So there may be some lags in terms of when the posts go out this week. That's one thing I can foresee.
Okay. So I want to say something.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Then in terms of the client that is going to be added with, one person I see that is going to be added with may be Sal.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you say that?
So the last set of scripts that I had sent before, she complained of repetitiveness, which we have now solved with having access to her platform with the ChatGPT. And of course, when the content are being created, we cross-checking from her past content to be sure we're not repeating. Another thing I think she also mentioned was maybe the content were sounding very AI. So making sure that it doesn't sound very AI. And then lastly, getting her to...
Did she mention that though, like sounding AI? Where did she mention that?
I believe I saw one of her old messages. But after the call, I'll check again to send. But yeah, that's one thing I wanted to know. Then lastly, having her to shoot all these videos on a weekly basis. That is the talking head videos.
Well, somebody like Sal, I actually don't expect Sal to jump on this.
Okay.
She most likely be sticking to her videos because she's already doing this herself to a great extent. She posts carousels as well, so it's alright. But for Sal, like for right now, like I'll handle the scripting. You guys know worry about it. Yeah, there's just a few scripts left, like for this batch of content anyway. So I don't even expect Sal to continue as a client, truthfully. But yeah, but we'll see what happens. Now that said, right? with this new process, people have already agreed with is Mari, Priyanka is there. I think Priyanka has already recorded some videos, right?
Yeah.
What's the name? Alex as well. For the Jamie as well, like again. Yeah, I think Jamie, yeah. So for these people, of course, like we need to discuss the clients, like we can't just like so, okay, we're doing it right now, we're shifting around. It would be like I'm thinking of like a 1 week what was the English? A 1 week gap, all right, to get like things moving. Because when like married now, unless I don't know if she has any content piece to post. So again, post the content pieces that she has, all right. But this will strike thing that we're doing right now for married. We do our scripts and our content and all of that, right? That would mean that like it's actually going to start going up by next week after we start posting that stuff. After we're done posting all of the content pieces that we have today. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, after we are done posting all the content pieces we have for her,
We're actually done.
we don't have any content piece to post for her.
Tomorrow, yes, we don't have. We posted the last one last.
No problem. So again, we are using like this entire week's like plan all of this to get them out. Our content script will be sent to her today. When she records, they will start like putting everything out there. All right. So when you like Priyanka already, because we already have everything done, so we need to execute. Then somebody like what's her name, Alex. It's already a flow that has been happening already on a weekly basis for the past 3 weeks now, so it's not new. And all of that. So yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about each client like next. That said, who is the next person?
So I was going to say nothing from my end. I believe we already talked about what we need to stop doing generally, and I think all the tools from our end are paid for. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from our end.
What did you say, Sai? Sorry.
Yeah, I said for me, there's nothing on my end, right? All the tools we need to work with are being paid for. What we need to stop doing, we already discussed right now this week. What breaks in week 1, I already talked about it, and we already talked about week 4. So yeah.
Okay, no problem. That sounds good.
I think the grace is raising up hand.
Okay. So about the two, there's this that used to happen, and Precious also said the same thing to me last week. I don't know, club is actually good though, but then sometimes it doesn't just, I don't know, it doesn't just get something right. So what I started to do was, I started to like create the same project stuff on ChatGPT, and Precious is the same, but it gives us like better results than code. I'm not going to lie. Like so far, ChatGPT has given us better results. Like it's even helped us. Like it helped her with both Priyanka stuff and everything. At the end of the day, because she has to go back to chat.
Okay. So which part exactly is ChatGPT good at for you? Like which part?
Me personally, everything. Like I just sometimes I go to class, but sometimes I'm like, no. Sometimes I don't really. It just scatter. Like just I don't know. Even if I prompt it very very well, I spend time prompting and everything. You don't just get the message most of the time. But chat, my own chat personally, I'm using the free version and it still get me like the best results. Like I feel like there are some parts that my chat even understand like right now better, like so well.
Okay. So what's your do you mean we should just go back to ChatGPT?
I don't know, like Precious was paid anyways. So but my own is like not paid. So if you want to go back to ChatGPT, yeah, I don't know. But I feel like personally, we have trained our ChatGPT to some extent. So if the I don't know what we can do because if we're going to go back to ChatGPT, that means um the brands will be having their own ChatGPT and it will take time for us to like uh, for personally.
You have to make a decision, Grace. Like, you have to decide, man. What do you want?
I don't know. Maybe we should just like pay our personal charts. That would help. That would make things easier. This one is just like me and Precious.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Who's the next person? What are we still doing that we should stop doing? Any questions? Anything? All right, see, there's nothing else. So, three things I'm asking for is number one, think about the client's growth, not your task. Like, and how should I put this? At the end of the day, all right, it's all about growth, man. It's all about like what gets this client from point A to point B. So don't be thinking, okay, like, oh, as far as I just set the content topic here and there, my task is already done. No, like, you need to think about the growth of the clients, like, before you do anything, like, think about it, like, not necessarily the task. So your job is not done when the task is done. It's done when you move something. It is like, and I think I remember like, Tracy Hebrella, we had a call one day. And I was actually like in this mind frame of, as long as we already like, do the content piece, then, it's good. But then she like explained to me that, look, like, this is not done until like we actually like, solve the problem. And that's what it's all about. That mind shift, right? I felt like it has really helped me a whole lot. Like to in my approach, I mean, like, without actually doing things. So I'm more like doing things from a point of like, this is not about like me just checking a checklist of like my to do or whatever. It's about like really doing things that I know fully well will actually help me achieve the goal, achieve the goal I actually set for it. So please think about the client's growth, not your task. Write down what you learn. Like, I feel one of the biggest qualities that really help us like become better people is like paying attention to things like, why did this work? Write stuff down. Like, you don't even need to be waiting until like the end of each week to be, say for example, you want to do a report. Like, you can really, or like when somebody is posted like today, for example, check it tomorrow, like what happened? How is this performing and all of that? Like, what worked, take notes and all. You understand? Yeah, thank you. Like, pay attention to why things are working. Make notes, not just even the client stuff. Like, when you're scrolling through the internet, like, save things. Like, why did this edit work? Why did it catch my attention? Because this whole thing is not about like one big, 360 change. It's like little by little things. You understand? And say something when something is off. Like, when the plan is not working fine, like, say it like immediately, and this is like what happened with the scriptwriter, like, last week, right? Where like something was not working with the process that we talked about, and then Precious had to like wait until till night, like, so that's why it's not working. And I said it to script, it not make sense. That was very, very annoying. And I understand, like, when something is off or it's not working, like, talk about it right there. Like, don't procrastinate. Like, come talk about what is off. Of course, like, talk about it with a solution in mind, like with solution, because then our work now becomes helping you, like, decide which of your solution is actually best or whatever. So mention things when it's off, please. All right, immediately. No procrastination. Sound good, guys? Are we all on the same page? Are we all on the same page, guys?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So on every call that we're having, especially like those Monday calls, we agree to like, okay, this is what we are changing, this is who owns what, this is when it starts, and this is like, maybe what is still open. You understand? That's like basically like what we're going to be doing with the meeting. You will see like how we structure like moving forward for every meeting, but like just like you get the clear idea. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, any questions before we move on to our next thing? Any questions? Questions. All right, there are no questions. Let's review like our stuff and talk about it this week.
Okay. The way it still need to go to the metrics tracker.
Yes.
Since we have most of our, okay. All right.
And guys like to eat a longer week.
So, yeah. We have 18 pieces of content. Okay, we have the full month stats there, right? Very quickly, 111 number of pieces, content pieces done, 944 designs, 67 videos, 51% deliver, 51% on time delivery, which is below average. Average revisions of 117. On time delivery, sorry, was actually 275%. That was over 500%, I believe. Yeah. But for this last week, we had 18 pieces of content, 5 designs done, 13 videos assigned, 13 videos done, 4 from Elix, 4 from Log, 5 from Essay, 3 shorts and trailer and one other thing. We have 80% on time delivery last week. We have 14 average revision videos and 0 missed deadlines. So those are the numbers.
For let me look at it from my own end. So.
Okay. Is it tiny?
Yes, it's very tiny.
Because of the screen I'm using. How about now? Is it still tiny?
I can't even see my okay, I see it, don't worry. Thank you. Alright, so
Okay.
client check-in was done, 100% of active clients. Wait. Why everything looks scattered?
Looks scattered. How do you mean?
Okay, so can you scroll up a little bit?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I can see it now, yeah.
Okay.
So task completion was 90%. 90% majorly because of Wasiat's video that entered into Sunday. Turnaround time was 90% as well. That is, I'm reading the ones for the month. 90% as well because of some back and forth that we had over the month with delivery time from SA and also from Elix. Then client response time was 90%, number of check-in was 100%. Then for the last week, task completion was 100%, turnaround time was 90, client response time was 90, monthly report is currently in progress. The number of client check-ins was 100%.
Okay. Chris?
Okay, so amount of kids produced 17. Approval rate for the schools like 80%. Thanks approval is for topics too. 80 sent. Then I worked on two topics, like two client topics. That's Priyanka and Christian.
Okay, so Georgina.
First for Jamie, 6, Wasia was 5, Priyanka was Mary Eve was 14, Priyanka was 12, Alex was 18, English 13, and then last week we had 3 for Jenny,
Hello?
2 for Wasia,
Mama, good
2
morning,
for
ma.
Mary, 1 for Priyanka,
I did fine. How you doing?
5 for Alex,
Fine. Oh, happy New Week. Happy New Month.
4 for Alex,
Yes, ma. Our family.
2 for Christy.
Amen.
Why just go for
Amen.
Alex?
Amen.
We did post on Tuesday.
Amen. Thank you, ma. Yes, ma.
Content was not ready.
Oh, okay. 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 Congrats. Oh. Right on. Thank you.
For the metrics.
Now they share them now. I mean, I don't go back.
Sorry, for Alex, right? I think I was doing something.
Okay.
I'll ask
Okay.
you like,
All right. No
there
wahala.
was no content pieces or
Yeah, I think the edit didn't come out in time.
throughout the week.
Not throughout the week, like
Oh,
just
okay.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Do I need to now post another?
All right. No wahala. Okay.
I've actually exhausted all the contents.
Yeah.
So I say we don't have any content pieces to post for Alex. Is that what the issue was?
Yes. Priyanka's number for last week did great compared to last 2 weeks. Her reach increased, her content views increased, all the metrics increased actually. Then for Jamie, has dropped a bit. Her TikTok did really well compared to the other week. For last year, her numbers did well. There was like an increment, including her LinkedIn metrics, her TikTok as well, as well as her YouTube. For Mary, the numbers dropped a bit compared to the other week, both Instagram and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, sorry, some of her metrics did well for LinkedIn, like social engagements, her followers count, and search and visitors. Alex, her numbers dropped a bit too. And then these are the first metrics that I've taken for Christy since I posted to them. So this is the first week.
Okay. So Georgina, I'm sorry, that's not sorry. Sorry.
Number of design would be 3, then other designs for Christy, video edits were made. Number of design corrected, 1. Number of video reviews, 16. Number of videos corrected, 11.
Okay. Jen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, now we can.
All right. So, for last week, content delivered. I think we already talked about that. 17 scripts, 13 videos, and 3 cars. So on the content side, our main deliverables this week: submit Wasia's campaign content, complete Mari scripts, complete Priyanka scripts, complete Sal scripts, then content topics for Jamie, Christian, Monali, and then of course we're implementing this new system. For my side, one thing I want to confirm, now that we have this whole system, we are planning to give the 1 week gap. Should I message relevant clients or the clients that this applies to let them know that we're using this week to implement the new system, or how do I pass it across to them in a way that they are aware of the gap that we have, or there's no need to actually state that, but just let them know that they're going to be getting something by the end of the week instead? So that's one thing I need to figure out.
Let's talk about each client's task for the week.
Okay. Okay. So the things that Sai is doing for the week, Damaris are following up for new videos. She already said that she was going to send in on Tuesday. Priyanka, we are going to be monitoring for new uploads. That is when we send her for the new scripts, because she already sent in her latest video, so that's going to be assigned to be edited. For Wasia, complete the requested changes to the shots and send the final versions. We've gotten the trailer. I think the feedback that Sai sent, is improving on the feedback, and then we'll send. Then for George, follow up on the shooting script. Mona Lisa, follow up on the status of our equipment. Mari will continue scripting. Let me just go in depth per client. For Christy, our current status is we started posting for her so far. We are finalizing her last videos, and then we sent her the 5th script correction last week, and she sent in some correction for the time management video, so that's going to be fixed. This week's deliverables, we are fixing her corrections, we are sending her new scripts, and also editing any video that she sent. So I put in last week deliverables here.
How many videos are posted for Christy so far?
Gigi, can you confirm? I believe it should be 4 now.
4.
Okay, 2. Oh, okay, so the remaining 2 videos are the ones that we sent to her and she gave feedback on, so we need to fix. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, hold on, please. So for this week, right, Christy is one of the guys that we have. She's on board the new plan, 100%. So now we've already asked her to do microwave reels. I mean, to do like some B-rolls. Can you check her profile now? Like check her folder, see if there's any microwave B-rolls there.
Already? Okay.
No B-rolls. Let me check the B-roll library. Okay, they are in the B-roll library.
Okay, this sounds good. So the goal for Christy this week is that, yeah, we are going to be writing new content topics, that she will shoot over the weekend, of course. So we have she would have recorded the last video then, the 5th one then. Would have recorded the 5th script.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to get that edited this week. Then also those B-rolls, the microwave reels, right?
Yeah.
That she did. So we've already written the text for them, correct, Grace? Just have to put the text on the videos.
Yeah. But we
So that means Yeah, that means the goal this week is for us to publish all of the 3 talking head videos. We'll publish like those 3 on our feed, okay? Then we post trial reels like based on those microwave reels. We do like 7 of those microwave reels actually. So out of the B-rolls that she added, we need to edit 7 of them and put the text on them. So do 7 of them, and those ones will go into the trial reels.
When she was granting access to that account, I had to use Buffer. I'm using Buffer to upload her content. She sounded like she didn't want me having like direct access to the account because she said her DMs are merged.
Okay, so what you would do is that, like, let's get those microwave reels edited. All right, do all of the 7, put the schedule on, then she will post them herself to microwave reels. I mean, for the trial reels. Then the 3 videos, all right, 2 of them that has been edited. I don't know if they corrected yet, but like the 2 that's already done, and also the new one that she said, we'll post those ones on the feed. So like we'll schedule it for like Tuesday. Just pick any time during this week to post all of the 3 on the main feed. Then these microwave reels will go like every day, trial reels for 7 days.
Okay.
Is that clear?
That's fine.
All right. Jen, is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. Next client, Monali. Client status, she sent in the images and we also sent in her script. So this week's deliverables, we are hoping that she shoots her videos and then we'll start editing and then get to posting for her as well. She's able to record.
What's the update on our videos? What's the update with that exactly in terms of recording side?
For Monali, we're going back for during the weekend to like get our gear sorted out, right? So she's chosen now and she's ordered them. So I'll just follow up on her today with the DMs on whether she finally gotten them. Because I assume that like okay on Sunday they probably are not delivering on Sunday. So it was like a Monday thing.
Okay, no problem. So write new scripts for her as well. Sorry, new content topics. But the content topics you are writing this time around, Grace, it needs to be like about because I also made a list. Let me see. One idea. You need to write topics that's focus on hot opinions regarding business, branding, and all of that in Africa. We've been doing a lot of education from what I've seen. So it needs to be hot opinions. So all of the 4 that I was sending to her needs to be hot opinions.
Okay. All right. So for Sao, you're writing a script, and then I'm going to be setting her meeting for this week as well, since she's supposed to be back this week. So I'm going to check in with her and see how she's faring, and then set her meeting.
Okay, that check-in, we can take a pause on that actually.
Okay.
Okay, so like let me figure out like this whole scripting thing for her.
All right. Then for Priyanka, we'll be assigning the videos that she already delivered. This week's deliverable, she mentioned how she wants Notion to be arranged, so I'm going to arrange it like that. Adding publishing and creation dates to the Notion, and then we'll resume posting and send her a completed script. I think you also mentioned that.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
I think you mentioned that Gracie should write new scripts for her. So that's what I was saying.
For Priyanka.
Is it new script or new topic? Okay. For this new system.
She's already on. Where's the document I sent to her, Grace? What we plan the topic for this week?
Oh, okay.
Can you chat, please? Drop the document that I sent to Priyanka last week for this week.
Okay.
Yeah, Sai, what's up?
Yeah, I was going to say that like For Priyanka, I actually tried to look for a recording what she said she uploaded. I didn't see anything, so I've followed up with her already. We'll see how that goes. But no recording seen yet.
Okay, those talking heads for her, right? I think we need to really do a. Now we are planning the content, Grace. I think one thing I would need for you to do is that people like Christy, Priyanka, like we need to. Is it Grace that should own this or Jen? I think Jen should own it. But on the doc, right, when we say, for example, like Alex, the number of content pieces that are supposed to go out, you need to actually put in. Maybe that's where you put this in motion. Yeah, maybe when you put it in motion. But the due dates, I really want to see the dates, the schedule, like, and for when each of them will go out. So that way, like, it's easier for us, like, sort of like picture what is coming when. Yeah, because Alex, for example, is supposed to be 7 talking heads this week, 4 carousels, then 7 trial reels as well. So that means like you need to go in there and sort of like map what the schedule will look like. That would also mean that maybe like on a day you might post twice. But like it's better like you map what that would look like. And so if you're looking for the doc, I pinned it already on the group with us, so you can. I think we should be pinning it for like every client like that. So you just click navigate it. So yeah. So Priyanka, okay, drop the doc already. Open the doc, please. Okay. Open the doc and share your screen.
Yeah. So this is it.
Scroll down. So for Priyanka, for example, I think the instructions are already there. Scroll down. So you would see there's a voiceover.
So this is the content for this week, 24.
It can't be 24. Is this the same doc? Go up, please. Like, do it one after the other. Like, I think you scroll down too fast.
Okay, one page at a time.
So all these talking heads right here, they are for the entire month. So you can see the instruction at the top that says the talking heads are for the entire month. And throughout August, then the microwave reels, the voiceover, carousel, and priorities will cover the first 2 weeks of August. So that was like, all those things are looking at like is across this week and next. Okay. You understand? Then the talking heads are, for the entire month. So whatever she recorded, I don't know how many talking heads are there. Scroll up, please. 7. Okay. So that would be like how many pedals like per week? Is that 2? Is it 2? 2 a week.
Then 1 week will have 3.
Okay. Yeah. Then what my day looks like. But this is a voiceover. The rest is like across 2 weeks, right? Yeah. So the carousel, the voiceover, scroll down. Microwave reel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, then trial reel. Scroll down 1. So trial reel is eating. Should be 7. How many is it? Not the trial reel in total.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Is it 7?
Yes, it is. It's 7.
Okay. The trial reel should be every day thing. I think it's just 1 week's worth. Anything trial reel needs to be posted every day. Understand? So the text is there, right? This would mean that we need to execute this. You understand? The text is right there. You just need to execute this. This is everything you get when you book out $650 mini branding sessions. I still think like Grace, it looks like this is going to talk about it. There used to be like a writing that lists out everything that they'll get. But like the rest, we need to execute them. Then scroll up, go up a little bit. Then things like the carousels, all right. I think like Grace, you need to like look through, right? Anything that is not complete here, like in terms of like the overlays or the script for the carousels, that we need to write them. We need to write those things. Because I think what we've written so far is the talking head that was sent to her because Grace is not here. Okay. What happened? Grace, what's up? What's going on?
I'm not thinking my network.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
You were talking about, you explained who documents will be then.
So I was saying for Priyanka, right? I know what's her name. I was reading the scripts. Precious, well, she only wrote the script for the talking head, right?
Yeah.
We need to write the script for the carousels, and also some of these microwave reviews as well. Like I don't think they are complete yet. If you scroll down, Jen, please. So that's $650. Everything that you get, blah blah blah. You need to go back to that landing page. I believe like that thing should include what the people would actually get, right? There should be the text there.
Like, this is just topic, so where we want to write it, we're going to have like the old text on the screen and caption.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we need to, that should be what more than name works on next.
Yeah.
After Mary is done. So we sort out all of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after I think she had already sent me something for Mary. So after this call, I'll quickly review. But I don't really think Precious wrote the script for the microwaves for Mary. When that is done, we'll move on behind that. All right. Yeah. Okay, so Jen, when everything is ready like that, you assign the dates and all of that. So yeah. Okay.
Okay. For Alex, current status, follow up with her with the week's content. So she had sent some.
She didn't record anything.
I didn't get that.
She didn't send anything in during the weekend.
No, she didn't.
Okay.
Then
Yeah, go on.
she had sent in some videos some days back. And in the videos she had, I think you dropped a voice note to ask you if they were good to go, but that was not responded to, so we couldn't edit it. So the plan is to call your attention back to it, and then once you decide the ones that should go and the ones that should not go, we will now edit the ones that should be edited. And then she also mentioned in her recent voice note that she sent that whether we should redo or rework the LDN content because they're not doing well. She said she gets a lot of DMs asking her questions about it, but she's not sure why the content is still not doing well. So she was asking for feedback as well.
Okay, when the videos that you sent, it was this before or after I sent the content direction for this week?
It was before you sent the content direction.
Okay, honestly, I just careless, man, about like anything that happened before that time. So please just follow up with that, like for the new content direction that was sent, like talking head videos, and she recorded them. And now the carousel, the scripts have been written already. The microwave reels as well, the scripts have been written, so we need to assign those things.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can get those designs done. Start getting them sent in and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, should we, because I feel that there's so many microwave reels side, like should we just like maybe like dedicate today to all the microwave reels for the clients, or what do you think? There's microwave reels for like Christy, there's microwave reels for Priyanka, there's microwave reels for Mari, there's microwave reels for what's her name? Who are we talking about right now? This lady.
Christy.
Alex.
Okay, Alex.
So that's like 4 or 5 people. So how can we just like, get those microwave reels, like, all of them done today?
If that's like what's available like right now, I think we should just do it here.
Okay, so let's assign everything. Microwave reels. Let's get that done. All hands on deck. When will SA be done with that WhatsApp video? Because SA also needs to be editing the videos.
I think it's done already. I already gave him feedback. I
But it's
think
video, not trailer.
No,
but
no.
okay, I don't know about the full video.
He said he's working on the main video. He will fix the shots first, then he will now finish the main video.
And also, they need to follow the references for the microwave reels. When I'm saying references, like including like the text style. Microwave reels are not supposed to look like anything fancy. They're supposed to look native, like to the app themselves or whatever. So please, everything needs to be followed well. So yeah, I was still like, let's let them do all the microwave reels today. Let's start like having them out. Yeah, let everyone just do the whole thing. I don't think it should take long. I think we already have the bureaus are waiting for them and the text is ready. So yeah, the only person's microwave reels that I think is not ready will be Priyanka's, which is what Grace is mentioning that the text needs to be done. Also, like moving forward, Grace, like when we are planning microwave reels, I think it's way better for us to be getting the text, the overlay, like just writing it fully, like straight away from the planning stage. I'm supposed to like now going back to it because it's not like a full script. Just like what I did for us and then Married or Alex, just write the full thing, straight up, and so not end up like wasting time and going back and forth and rewriting again and all of that. Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For Jamie, we already edited some videos last week. Just check for the correction, and then schedule them. Then this week's deliverables, we are going to be editing the remaining interview videos and get our remaining scripts or get our remaining
Okay,
videos.
so for Jamie, right? How many videos does she have right now ready to be published?
It should be 2. I assigned 2 videos last week, so there should be 2. Then if I assign one more interview video rather, it will now be 3 that can go this week.
Okay, so that means we can actually, because I was planning for us to do the content thing for our, today, Grace, content direction and all of that. For Jamie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that means that if we can get that done today, then we can we'll still post like what we have this week, right? Particularly for her. So if she records anything this week, we just know that the new process will start getting posted for next week.
Okay. For Wasia, the current status, we talked about it already. Our old podcast videos are already scheduled to go out. Okay, Georgina sent me a message. I didn't see it, but Georgina, do you want to raise it on the call?
One about Wasia's shots.
Yeah, those shots I sent. You said some of them are repeated or something.
Yes, I realized some of them have been posted before.
Okay, so we decided that she was going to post the ones that are new, that have not been posted before. But bringing it up here just in case Sai wanted us to post like everything.
Wait, hold on. But Sai, you picked videos, right? Or is it everything that you sent them?
No. I picked the ones that make sense. Because AI was in somewhere not corroborate.
All right, post